There are numerous female stars who rose to fame as sex symbols around the time of the 1970s, from Raquel Welch to Dorothy Stratten. For better and for worse, most of these stars look quite a bit different today. That is, if they're still around. Join Factsverse, as this 70s star was every man's dream girl. Try not to gasp when you see her now. Pam Grier. Pam Grier is a blaxploitation queen who rose to fame during the 1970s thanks to films like Coffy and Foxy Brown. Released respectively in 1973 and 74, those films each feature Pam in the role of a titular heroine. These movies were major successes, and they made Pam a hit with audiences. In particular, black audiences resonated with seeing some strong female representation on the screen. By the time the 90s rolled around, Pam's career was in dire straits. Aside from a bit role in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, which was released in 1991, not much was coming her way as far as mainstream attention. That is, until the release of 1997's Jackie Brown. Written and directed by Quentin Tarantino, of Pulp Fiction fame, Jackie Brown saw Pam play yet another titular heroine. Notably, the source material wasn't named after Pam's character. The title was changed by the director as a callback to Pam's days as a blaxploitation heroine. In the Elmore Leonard novel, upon which the film was based, the character Pam went on to play wasn't even black. The film proved to audiences that not only was Pam still tough, but she was still sexy nearly 20 years on from her heyday. Another 2 decades have passed since, and Pam is still kicking around. At age 73, she's still not a woman you'd want to cross. Much of her recent work has been on television, including on the hit This Is Us. Goldie Hawn. There were few 70s starlets more beautiful than Goldie Hawn. Goldie first rose to prominence as a performer on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, but it was her subsequent film career in the 1970s that really rocketed her to the attention of the global audience. One of her earliest notable film roles was a turn in the 1970 comedy There's a Girl in My Soup. Goldie continued acting until the early 2000s before taking a hiatus in 2002. In the 90s, she had some big hits, including Death Becomes Her. In 2017, she made a return to the big screen via the comedy Snatched. She's also notably the mother of Kate Hudson, another big star. Raquel Welch. Raquel Welch was one of the looming sex symbols of the 70s thanks to her appearance in 1 Million Years BC. Though the film was released in 1966, Raquel was just as big of a deal in the ensuing decade. Some of her film roles in the 70s included a turn in The Three Musketeers, released in 1973. The performance even saw her win a Golden Globe Award. Sadly, Raquel passed away in February of 2023. Kirstie Alley. Kirstie Alley was a sex symbol from the 70s who aged just as gracefully as the figures we've taken a look at before. She started showing up in films during the 70s, and it didn't take long for her looks to catch the attention of audiences. But it was her appearance in 1982's Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan that sealed the deal. She went on to become a superstar thanks to her work on the show Cheers. She was on the show for almost a decade, winning a Golden Globe Award for her time on the show in 1991. Since that show ended, she continued to appear on both the big and small screens. Sadly, she passed away in December of 2022. Kim Basinger. Kim Basinger got her start in the entertainment industry as a model, though her looks made it easy for her to transition into film. Her earliest work as an actress came by way of a TV series called Gemini Man. Throughout the 70s, she became a familiar face amongst audiences as she continued to rack up credits in various series. In the 80s, Kim transitioned from TV to the big screen and became an even bigger star thanks to her work in films like Batman. Batman was released in 1989, and Kim was still getting female lead roles nearly a decade later in films like LA Confidential. Kim continues to work today, though she has slowed down a little bit. Her most recent notable work was in the 50 Shades trilogy, namely the second entry, 50 Shades Darker. Teri Garr. Mel Brooks's 1974 parody Young Frankenstein was a film meant to make audiences laugh first and foremost, though many found themselves having other feelings once Teri Garr came on screen. Her beautiful looks were used for comedic purposes in the film, though the actress used the attention to secure herself the designation of one of the decade's defining sex symbols. In addition to being beautiful, Teri also has some acting chops. In 1977, she starred in Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. 5 years later, she appeared in 1982's Tootsie, alongside a cross-dressing Dustin Hoffman. Sadly, Teri's health has taken a turn for the worse since the turn of the millennium. In 2002, Teri announced she'd been diagnosed with MS. Though she has handled the affliction well, it has still prevented her from being as big of a presence in the media as she otherwise could be. Teri is now 78. Debbie Harry. Debbie Harry was one of the most notable female vocalists in the world of 1970s rock and roll. Her work with the band Blondie continued being successful into the 80s, during which Debbie also made a successful transition into acting via David Cronenberg's Videodrome. Whether performing with her band or acting on the big screen, fans couldn't get enough of Debbie's energy and sex appeal during her heyday. Blondie continued having hits into the 90s, and the band is still around. Debbie still tries her best, though years of hearty rock and rolling have left her both weathered physically and lacking vocally. She's also a philanthropist. Katharine Ross. Katharine Ross rose to prominence during the late 1960s thanks to hits like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, though she continued appearing in hits across the 70s. Some of her most notable work during the latter decade included turns in cult classics like The Stepford Wives. In the 80s, she left her acting career behind to marry Sam Elliott. The two are still married to this day. Faye Dunaway. The late 60s vehicle that made Faye a star was Bonnie and Clyde. Faye played the female titular character, and she won an Academy Award for her role. The actress has kept at it with her recent work including a turn in a 2021 film named The American Connection. Diane Keaton. Diane Keaton rose to prominence via some of the 1970s most acclaimed films. In addition to appearing in The Godfather, she was also an actress of choice for Woody Allen during the time period. Their many collaborations during the decade included the hit Annie Hall. Diane won an Academy Award for Best Actress thanks to her work in Annie Hall, and she's continued to find acclaim in the field to this day. Most recently, she appeared in the 2022 film Love, Weddings, and Other Disasters. Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep came to prominence in the 1970s, first as a stage actress and then on television, before finally making her way to the big screen alongside Dustin Hoffman in 1979's Kramer vs. Kramer. Memorably, Meryl has recalled feeling intimidated by Dustin, given that she was a Hollywood newcomer and he was already a big star. There was even an episode wherein Dustin was accused of taking advantage of this power dynamic when he slapped Meryl for real during an intense scene. Meryl has since flipped the table on the man, as she's more Hollywood royalty today than he ever was. Dorothy Stratten. Finally, let's take a look at a 1970s sex symbol that things didn't turn out well for at all. Dorothy was a 1970s star that every man dreamed of, but sadly, she was tragically murdered. She first rose to prominence in 1978, and her stardom came thanks to the help of a handler/lover named Paul Snider. Paul was a man looking to cash in on the actress's good looks, and he did so when he got her a photo shoot with Playboy. Appearances in films followed, including a modest cult classic called Galaxina, released in 1980. The same year the film was released, Dorothy's career was brought to a halt when she was tragically murdered. The man who murdered her was the very same man who helped her become famous. Angry he couldn't control her. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you know that 1970s sex symbol Dorothy Stratten was murdered by the same man who made her famous, and that Meryl Streep got slapped for real on camera? Let us know in the comments section below.